In the last few years, renting your personal car has absolutely blown up in popularity as a side hustle. There's a lot of people out there even claiming that it's the best side hustle to do nowadays. Today we'll be talking to Aubrey, who is a Turo expert and has over a dozen cars on the platform. We're going to see how much profit you can potentially make with this as a side hustle and what is needed to get started making profit with Turo in your city today. The interview is going to be timestamped, so feel free to jump to certain sections of the video. Also, a huge thanks to Aubrey for all the great advice and tips during the interview. Please show her some love and check out her great videos all about Turo and different side hustles on her channel. Now let's jump right into the interview. All right, awesome. Now we're just jumping over to the interview, and the first question we have is how long have you been renting cars on Turo?
So I started Turo in 2017, so it's coming up on 5 years. I guess as of right now, technically like 4.5.
Oh, wow. And how many vehicles do you have?
15 currently. So 15 on Turo, and then we also have 2 RVs as well that we rent out on a different platform. So a 17 car sharing fleet.
Cool. And then how many cars did you originally start with?
Just one. So I used my personal car, which was a 2011 Jeep Wrangler.
And then I guess what kind of car makes the best kind of inventory to list on Turo?
But to be honest, I mean, you could rent a wide variety of different cars, from sports cars. I had a Maserati on the platform for a while that was wrecked. You could do sports cars, you could do Jeeps, you could do SUVs. It really depends on your market. Different markets are going to dictate different cars. But I think in general, kind of going with that normal low-end economy car, and the research that I've done with Turo, you can't go wrong with that business model.
Okay, so maybe the best way to start is get a low-end economy car, and then if you want kind of grow into different sectors of Turo, then would you recommend that then?
I would say experiment first with the car that you own. Like whatever car is the easiest car for you to get your hands on, that I think is the best route to pursue, because the reality is that Turo isn't for everyone. I think it can be for a lot of people, but there are some people that either don't like it, it's just something that they're not interested in. And I'm always an advocate of going in with your personal car first, because you don't want to get a car loan or buy a car, get started on Turo for a month, and then you're like, I don't know if this is for me. And
okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you kind of already touched on this, but what's a typical cost for a Turo car? You were saying before the pandemic, an economy car might go for $2,500, but nowadays you're potentially seeing that car for $5,000. Was that when you mentioned?
I think the cheapest car we ever bought was $2,200. So buying these really cheap cars and then fixing them up. And those same cars are probably going for like $4,500 today. But then even the cars that I buy are kind of the next step above that, just because I don't have the time to spend, 20, 30 hours fixing a car anymore. And so, but I would say you can very realistically buy a car for Turo for $5,000. Like, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to look out for good deals, but you can find them for sure.
Okay. And then what kind of locations are you looking to purchase the car? Is it directly from another person that owns it? So Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or are you actually going to dealers and auctions?
We do directly with Facebook and Craigslist. And so we will buy from most of it small, dealerships that are just kind of one-man operations that post their ads on Facebook. And so not dealerships, but they have dealer licenses. And then the other portion is people just selling their car. And so that's what we do. We don't buy from dealerships typically because dealerships don't really sell the cars we're looking for. And then with auction cars, it's the entire mess of needing an auction license. And then you have to deal with the auction car. It's just not something we've done. So yeah, we do Facebook and Craigslist.
All right, awesome. So now let's say that we have a car, we're thinking about putting our own personal car on Turo. What else do we need in order to get started?
Your car. And that's pretty much it. But I think whenever you get into the world of scaling the business, that's kind of where it does get a little bit more messy, and there are things. And there is, of course, how risk adverse are you? I mentioned a few moments ago that I'm pretty risky with things that I do, in the sense that I don't put a whole lot of thought into it. I'm just this will be fine. And so there are some people that get very squeamish of the idea of having their personal car without an LLC, without a commercial license. But whenever I got started with Turo, I just got started with my personal car. I used my personal insurance. I used my personal car. Everything was in my personal name. And that's how I got started.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then I guess for insurance, you have to tell your personal insurance company that you're doing Turo?
The vast majority of auto policies out there are not going to be okay with Turo. And so you kind of just don't tell them, and then you hope that they never find out. And then if they do find out, then you kind of address that whenever it comes. that's why kind of switching, like figuring out if Turo is something you want to do and then switching to these like Turo friendly systems is something that I always encourage people to do, because insurance is definitely a tricky aspect.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a great point. And then kind of like leading on to our next question is, how many hours a week do you spend like managing just one car on Turo? So whether that's like communicating with the clients, maintenance, and I guess everything else that goes into it.
We probably spend about 15 to 20 hours per week on all 15 cars. And that varies quite a bit. Like some weeks it will be less, some weeks it might be a little bit more, but 15 to 20 is pretty consistent with our 15. So I would say on average, probably about an hour for one car.
Do you guys have to take pictures then of after every time someone rents the car? And is that just for like insurance purposes then?
Yeah, so it has to be taken 24 hours before the rental and 24 hours after. And it's to ensure that if there's anything that happened, like an accident, smoking, a pet was left in the car, overage miles, gas, it's just to protect yourself, to ensure that you can get reimbursed for your correct charges.
So I know like one of the big questions I'm going to get, and even like comes to my mind, is what happens when a customer damages your vehicle, whether that's like smokes in it, a pet, or even gets in like a bad car accident. Like, has this happened to you, and what have you done?
Yes, many times. So we have had like smoking and things like that is natural, like it's going to happen. It used to happen a lot more, but Turo has been really cracking down on it. And it doesn't happen that often. I would say maybe once a month, which I think across 15 cars isn't that bad. But total losses and like accidents and things like that happen. In fact, we were on like a really bad total loss streak for 4 months where we had, or 5 months where we had 4 cars get totaled in 5 months. And which was like the most we had ever had by far. And basically what happens is, like, this is something I talk about a lot on my channel, is whenever you are with Turo, it's really important for you to have an understanding of the terms of service, because that's going to be like your Bible to protect you if anything happens. And so in the case of an accident or a smoking claim, you get reimbursed, and you're allowed to be reimbursed up to a certain amount. And smoking, it's $250. In the case of gas, it's the cost of gas plus a $10 convenience fee. In the case of a total loss, it's the actual cash value of that car. And so as long as you are in a position where you follow terms of service, you've done everything that you need to, you'll be covered. And I've been, a host since 2017. I have, I think, 2,300 trips on the platform, and I've never been denied a damage claim. And I think it's just because I just follow the terms of service to a T.
All right. And then what percentage does Turo take in fees?
So it depends on your insurance package. So they have what they call a protection package. I guess technically it's not insurance, but they do the protection package is based off of your deductible in the case of damage. And I believe it's 60, 70, 75, 80, and 90. And so depending on that, you have a different deductible. So with the 60% plan, you keep 60% of the earnings, Turo keeps 40, but you don't have any deductible if something goes wrong. For me, I'm on the 75% plan. So I pay a $250 deductible, and I keep 75% of the income.
Okay.
So they take 25.
All right. So I know one of the big questions I know we're going to get is, how much money can you make in a month with a single car on Turo?
I mean, it's going to drastically depend on the car that you get. Like some cars that are higher end cars can make $2,000-$3,000 per month. I do think that that's kind of a little bit of the exception to the rule. It also will, of course, depend on your market as well. And the thing about Turo too, with like how much you can make per car, it depends also from like a month to month. Like some cars, if you have multiple smoking claims, you'll probably make more off of that than if you didn't have any. For us, the average car, I mean, we on average probably make between 800 and 1,000 a month on the cars, per car. And then like some of our best cars make significantly more than that, like our Mercedes C300, which is a 2009, that consistently does about 1,300 a month.
Oh, wow. And is that profit or total revenue?
That's revenue. So after expenses for each car is about, like with insurance, tires, and things like that, it's about $300 to $400 per month.
Okay. Even that though, so going back to like how much you paid for your economy cars, it seems like a great, return on investment right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I have like several follow-up questions, but I feel like it kind of seems like whatever you want to make out of the business, whether it's something that's pretty passive, maybe just put your personal car, or you really want to grow this and scale this into a full-time business, you have like the opportunity to potentially replace your 9-to-5 job, but at the end of the day, it kind of depends what your goals are with Turo.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I think that that's one of the wonderful things of Turo is that like it's so dictated on what you want to accomplish. For me, I don't think I have the desire to own 300 cars. Like I mean, maybe, who knows, but that's definitely not in the cards for me right now. Like I'm working to 25 and then I'll reevaluate from there. But there's definitely the ability for an everyday person to get to 15, 20 cars and make good six-figure income. But then if that's not your style, you don't want to do that, then get one or two cars and you can make an extra $1,000 to $2,000 per month. And so it really is really great for any type of like side hustle entrepreneur based on your goals, your availability, your lifestyle, your budget. So it's super customizable.
What about, is it like too late to get started with Turo? Do you think like the market's, getting too saturated?
I guess like the blanket statement is no, I don't think it's too late. Are new hosts going to have a harder time getting started than more experienced hosts? Probably, just because I know for sure that whenever you talk about the Turo algorithm, like I know with YouTube, like the YouTube algorithm's like this elusive thing, but the Turo algorithm sort of is as well. And I know that one of the things that the Turo algorithm looks for is like the history of the profile. And so as a result of that, I'm going to have a benefit over somebody that's getting started just now. But I think that it's, as long as you just stick to it, like you're going to get rentals.
And then I guess, who would you recommend for people to not use Turo? Like, is there a certain type of people, or maybe the people don't have the right tools or cars? Like, who would you recommend to kind of avoid using it?
Unfortunately, the world of Turo is like a customer support based business. Like you have to be good at dealing with people. And I'm somebody that like, I can be a little short tempered sometimes, especially if I feel like I'm right with something. And I just have to swallow my pride and just like accept whatever the guest is telling me is going on as fact. And so with Turo, you're going to deal with a lot of guests that are wrong about the platform because it's a new platform and like, it's not their fault. They've never used it before. So there's going to be a lot of confusion with guests. There's going to be a lot of guests that think they're right about something, but they're not right. And you just have to like smile and give them the answer that they're looking for, because reviews and like being nice to the customer is always right mentality. It's really important. So I would say the first type of person is like, if you can't do that, and if you're going to have a short fuse, and if you're going to like wanting to prove the guest wrong, like your time on Turo is going to be limited because Turo kicks posts off of their platform if they have bad reviews. So that's kind of the first one. And then I would say the second, if you're looking for something that requires no work from your end and you're looking for those side hustles that you can kind of take shortcuts with, Turo isn't for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess kind of wrapping up this whole interview, the last two questions we have is there anything that you wish you would have known before getting started, before renting cars on Turo?
I mean, not really, to be honest. I would say I wish I would have started growing faster. Which I think is kind of a cliche answer because it's like my only mistake is that I didn't grow faster. I don't know. I don't like that answer either, but it's I probably, there was a period of time where I stopped buying cars because I wasn't sure about the viability of Turo, and I regret doing that.
And then the final question we have, is there, I guess, any final tips or anything you want to say to anyone who's looking to get started on Turo?
Yeah, I mean, I would say read the terms of service. There's a lot of resources out there for Turo hosts who are wanting to get started. I mean, of course, I'm biased. I have a YouTube channel that talks about this. So if you're interested in that, check it out. I also have a course. But even aside from that, I mean, there's tons of Facebook groups that are super helpful. Like back whenever I started, Turo on YouTube wasn't a thing. And so I used Facebook groups and I reached out to more experienced hosts and asked for their advice. And so nowadays, like there's so much more resources than there used to be. So utilizing Facebook groups, utilizing YouTube, utilizing these resources, and just making sure that you're educated in what you're doing. And there are so many free resources out there.
All right, awesome. But yeah, I already just want to thank you for your time today and helping us learn a lot more about Turo as a side hustle and also growing it to a business. So yeah, thank you for all your tips and advice. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
A huge thanks to Aubrey again for all the great advice and tips on how you can start making thousands of dollars in potential profits with renting your car on Turo. If you want to learn more about Turo or other side hustles that Aubrey has personally tried, feel free to check out her channel and subscribe. Please leave a comment down below what side hustle you would like for me to do an interview for next. If this video brought you any kind of value, please make sure to subscribe and share the video. Feel free to check out all my other videos on my channel about personal side hustles that I have tried and to learn more about personal finance. I'll see you guys in the next one, and this is Kevin, your financial tutor, signing off. Peace.